Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. First off, I'd like to say to you all, thank you for all the Christmas wishes. I truly appreciate it, and I hope you all had a wonderful time. Next week, it's all about bringing in the new year. So, do you guys have any New Year's resolution lined up yet? All right, today I have 5 stories to share with you all. We will be covering stories from the East Coast, West Coast, a few in between, and even one from Canada. Before we get started, I would just like to say, if you're enjoying my content, why not take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way you'll never miss out on the latest episode, and you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals. Let's keep this journey going together. Thank you for all your support. Also, if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. This first one takes place in February of 2024. We're going to Comal County, Texas, and the nearest town is Tow. My wife and I have been working as park hosts at a campground on Lake Buchanan in central Texas for the past few months. Today, February 14th, at approximately 2 p.m., we were cleaning one of the camping loops in the park. Our park is located at the north end of the lake where the water is quite shallow. The water level has been low for some time now, so part of this area is kind of swampy or marshy. While we were working, I heard my wife say, "Oh my gosh, is that a Bigfoot?" I stopped what I was doing to go look at what she was seeing. Sure enough, there was a large upright bipedal something walking in a marshy grass area on the other side of a small channel of water at a distance of about 150 yards. He was moving from left to right. The sky was partly cloudy and our initial view was unobstructed. At first I thought, geez, that's a pretty big dude. I wonder why in the world he's over there walking on the other side of the water in that muck. Next, I realized he appeared to be all one color from head down. I couldn't make out any facial features or clothing features. All I could tell for sure was that he was large and all black or dark brown. My wife and I were about 20 feet apart and talking back and forth, not exactly trying to be stealthy, and after a few seconds, the thing we were watching stopped and looked in our direction. After a few seconds, it turned and began walking again, but now he was walking away from us towards the tall grass and brush and the hills on the other side. My wife had her phone and tried to get some video. The camera isn't the greatest, so the quality is not that good, but it's there in the video. Maybe if it could be enlarged and cleaned up, it might show what we saw. A couple of times over the past month, we've heard things at night up at our RV site. One night, it sounded like something was hitting the side of the trailer. Another time, it sounded like someone was attempting to access our storage bays. By the time I grab a flashlight and personal defense items to get outside, I can't find anything. This next one also takes place in the month of February, but this time in 1986. We're heading to Westchester County, New York, and the nearest town is Rye. I was being driven to work by my boyfriend. I got out of his car and started the long walk to the building. I turned around to say, "See you later," and when I turned back, there was this huge brownish figure about 8 feet to 9 feet tall, leaning up against a building. Please note, there was a huge tree in the yard where I worked. This thing frightened me so bad I didn't know where to go, because it was nothing but wooded area to my left, and maybe a couple of 100 feet in front of me there was a store. But I knew I wouldn't make it if this thing decided to chase me. I turned around to see if my boyfriend had left the area. I screamed his name loudly, and when I turned back, the thing was gone. We had to use a card key to access the building. I ran upstairs and I was telling my colleagues what I had seen. Everyone ran to the window, but we didn't see anything. We didn't think to go downstairs to see the footprints in the snow, but I remember some of my colleagues laughing at me. I know what I saw, and I'll never forget this ever in my life. If I'm not mistaken, the number 76 bus went up that area, and Rybrook, New York was a little city outside of Rye, New York. As you come down that creepy street, because it's a lot of wooded area, there is nothing out there but woods, and the businesses are far apart. This thing could have easily come out of the wooded area in Rye, New York. It wasn't a bear. Bears don't stand up like that. This was like a really tall, heavy man with a lot of hair on him. His arms hung down past his hips. I'll never forget that thing as long as I live. Again, thank you. This next one takes place October of 1974. We're going to Comal County, Texas, and the nearest town is Spring Branch. We chose a campsite across from the restrooms. At the road going into the site was a concrete slab with a water faucet. We backed our car in. There was shrubs between the campsite and the road. We could smell a campfire and heard boys singing in the distance, assuming it was Boy Scouts. We were sleeping in our tent. I woke up to the sound of footsteps nearby, and then 2 hands slapped the top of the tent. My husband got out of the tent and rocks started being thrown at him, maybe a dozen times. The rocks were being thrown from behind the shrubs near the road. We took our sleeping 11-month-old and got into our car and left. We left everything behind. I don't remember the little town we stopped at, but we stayed the night in a hotel until sunrise. We drove back to the campsite to get our belongings. My husband walked to the area the rocks were being thrown from, and there were very large bare footprints. They were clearly seen in the loose, soft soil. Our conversation was, who would have such large feet, and why weren't they wearing shoes, as the air was cool and crisp? We went to walk across the road, and we saw there was a dead snake that looked like it was almost pulled in half, laying on the slab under the water faucet. That was the most terrifying night of my life. Actually, it was life-altering because I became aware of primal fear, and I knew I could do whatever it took to protect my child. I'm reporting this now as this will be the 50th anniversary, and I want this to be known. P.S. The footprints were 15 to 16 inches long, and the width was in proportion to the length, pretty wide. This next one takes place in June of 2022. We're going to be heading to Liberty County, Texas, and the nearest town is Hall. We have had 3 occurrences over a 2-year period. Not sure about the months and days, and I had attributed the first 2 events to hogs. Our property is heavily wooded. In 2021, my father was sitting at our camp and heard something bipedal walking through the water marsh in front of our camp one night. Several months later, I was paced out along our road towards our gate, and I could see small trees being bent down as it walked next to me, and I could hear the extra step. This occurred probably about 11 o'clock at night. I never heard any breathing or saw any eyes. But shortly thereafter, my neighbor's motion light went off at his gate. He told me he never saw anything on his cameras that night. The third event occurred one night when I was hog hunting back in the woods late at night, and something right behind me let out the loudest roar I've ever heard. So loud I could feel it. It roared twice. I was frozen, but had to come out of my blind eventually. I had to walk back towards the direction from where the roar came from to get onto my four-wheeler. Again, I never saw any eyes or heard anything else. Our property is just northeast of Hardin. All of this happened prior to me thinking about Bigfoot or something to that effect. I told a buddy of mine my encounters, and he is a huge Bigfoot fan, and it turned me on to some podcasts. That's when I started also looking at reports and sightings in the Liberty County area and ran across a story that was investigated in Liberty. This next one takes place in July of 1976. We're heading to St. Paul County, Alberta, and the nearest town is St. Paul. Early one morning, a friend and I took a quarter-mile drive to check fences and cattle from the farm. Coming to the first fence, we noticed it was down. Pulling into a short grass 20-acre meadow, we drove to the high spot in the middle of the meadow. Looking to the far right corner of the meadow, my friend and I saw a large, dark figure on two legs looking at us from behind the tree line. The size of the beast was stunning. Dark, hairy, long arms, and after a time of about 20 seconds, it moved from where it was across the corner to the other tree line at an angle and disappeared into the tree line on the other side of the meadow. We were frozen and dumbfounded and didn't move. To say the least, we were in slight shock. This beast did not run, but strode steadily towards its destination in a movement that was hard to comprehend, as it moved like nothing I have ever encountered in my 65 years of life. I've been raised by my elders as hunter-gatherers and have a good sense of bush encounters from wolves, bears, and big cats. This was an encounter beyond my senses. We gathered our senses and shot back to the ranch to tell his dad. His dad was a hard man that didn't believe what we told him. All three of us went back to the field to let him look. We told him where we spotted the creature, and he went to the spot and came back to tell us that he didn't even see a track. Up the road about a couple of 100 yards was another gate fence, and the wires were pulled apart like taffy. About 20 yards in was a milk cow that had been pulled apart just like the wires, with the intestines only linking the two body parts and the parts being about 8 feet apart. Figure that one out. His father was speechless and ushered us back to the farm. The cops and Fish and Game came out. Everything was taken. We weren't talked to by the authorities, only my friend's father, who told them it was wolves. And that's the end of the story. My friend never spoke to me again after leaving the farm and moving away. Odd that they left shortly after this encounter. I know what I saw, and that could never be taken from me regardless of what people might think or say. Wish I was a little wiser in my younger years so that I could have done more to do something more to prove our encounter. Well, that's going to end things off for today, and I hope you all enjoyed these encounter stories. It's time to acknowledge the current OC members. I would like to thank Elizabeth, Jim, Diana, and Teresa for their contribution and support as members of the OC membership program. Your support is truly appreciated. By joining the OC membership program, you will unlock a trove of perks for just $2.99 per month. The perk grants you access to special emojis, membership badges, direct interaction with our members and myself by obtaining access to the OC Discord channel, where you can join in on our weekly members chat, as well as early access to my content plus more. Don't miss out on the adventure. Become a member now and join us today. If these encounters reminded you of one you may have had, then please forward your encounters to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story to the OC community. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.